Pressure is a fascinating thing because pressure doesn't create character. Pressure reveals it. And that's an important distinction. Most people spend their lives believing they know who they are. They believe they are patient. They believe they are calm. They believe they are resilient. They believe they are kind. Then pressure arrives. And suddenly they discover a completely different version of themselves. Because behaviour under pressure is often behaviour without preparation. And that's when the mask begins to slip. One of the reasons I became fascinated by human behaviour is because pressure strips away performance. It removes rehearsed answers. It removes carefully crafted images. It removes social presentation. And what remains is often incredibly revealing. Watch someone when things are easy and you'll learn something. Watch them when things are difficult and you'll learn much more. Because pressure changes priorities. Pressure changes perception. Pressure changes decision making. And of course, pressure changes behaviour. Okay. Think about your own life for a moment. How many people have surprised you? Maybe someone you thought was strong completely collapsed when life became difficult. Maybe someone you assumed would panic became the calmest person in the room. Maybe someone you trusted disappeared. Maybe someone you barely knew stepped forward to help. Pressure has a habit of rearranging people. It exposes strengths. It exposes weaknesses. It exposes character. Perhaps most importantly, it exposes conditioning. Most behaviour under pressure is not conscious, it's automatic. People often imagine that under stress they will carefully evaluate options and make logical decisions. In reality, that's rarely what happens. Most people revert to familiar patterns. The nervous system reaches for what it knows. The brain reaches for certainty. The body reaches for survival. And suddenly years of conditioning begin to drive behaviour, not thought, conditioning. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and react completely differently. One person becomes calm, the other becomes active, or reactive, One becomes focused, the other becomes overwhelmed. One moves towards solutions, the other becomes trapped by problems. The event may be identical. The behaviour is not. Because behaviour is being filtered through years of experience, years of beliefs, years of conditioning, years of nervous system training. Pressure doesn't ask permission, it simply arrives. A difficult conversation, a financial problem, a health scare, a relationship breakdown, an unexpected setback, a sudden loss. And in those moments, something very interesting happens. People stop showing you who they want to be and start showing you who they currently are. One of the biggest mistakes people make is judging themselves for what appears under pressure. They experience fear, frustration, anger, anxiety, avoidance. And they immediately assume something has gone wrong. But observation is more useful than judgment, because pressure is information. Pressure reveals where work still needs to be done. Pressure reveals when regulation is still required. Pressure reveals where healing may still be needed. It's feedback, you see, it's not failure. If you've ever watched people closely, you'll notice patterns. Some people become controlling. The more pressure they experience, the more they try to control everything around them. Other people withdraw. They disappear. They avoid. They shut down. Others become emotional. Others become aggressive. Others become busy. Some become rescuers. Some become victims. Some become martyrs. Some leaders. The pattern itself isn't the interesting part. The consistency is. Because people tend to repeat what feels familiar, even when it isn't effective. And that's where behaviour becomes predictable. Not because people are simple, but because patterns are repeatable. Or maybe I should say, because patterns repeat. Are they one and the same thing? Semantics, I would say. When enough pressure is applied, most people eventually return to familiar operating systems. The same arguments, the same reactions, the same coping mechanisms, the same stories, the same emotional loops, again and again and again. Which means if you're paying attention, pressure often allows you to predict future behaviour. Because past behaviour under pressure is often the best indicator of future behaviour under pressure. And this is why observation matters so much. Most people listen to words. Observers watch actions. Most people focus on intentions. Observers focus on behaviour. Fly. I mean, honestly, right? Most people hear promises. Observers watch patterns. Because behaviour contains information that words often hide. And pressure amplifies that information. Think about organisations, teams, families, relationships, friendships. The same principle applies everywhere. Everything can appear stable when conditions are favourable. Okay. The real test is when something goes wrong. That's when communication changes. That's when emotion emerges. And that's when accountability appears or disappears. That's when priorities become visible. That's when character becomes visible. The fascinating thing is that pressure doesn't affect everyone equally. Some people appear calm externally while chaos is happening internally. Others appear emotional externally while remaining remarkably stable underneath. Which is why behaviour must be observed over time. Single moments can mislead. Patterns rarely do. A single reaction means very little. Repeated reactions tell a story. Sit up for a second. And perhaps that's one of the most useful lessons you can learn about human behaviour. Don't become obsessed with isolated incidents. Study patterns, study consistency, study behaviour across time, particularly behaviour under pressure. Because pressure acts like a spotlight. It illuminates things that are often hidden when life is comfortable. The people who grew the most are not necessarily the people who avoid pressure. They're the people who learn from it. They become curious. They observe. They reflect. They ask questions. Why did I react that way? Why did that trigger me? Why did I avoid that conversation? Why did I become defensive? Why did I lose perspective? Those questions create awareness, and awareness creates choice. Because eventually something begins to change. The gap appears, pressure arrives. But instead of reacting automatically, you notice, you observe, you pause. And within that pause, something powerful happens. Choice becomes possible. Not because pressure disappeared, but because awareness arrived first. And that's the real shift. The goal isn't to eliminate pressure. That's impossible. The goal is to understand what pressure reveals. Because pressure is one of the greatest teachers of human behaviour. Not just in other people, but in ourselves. In the next episode, we're going to bring this entire series together. Because once you begin recognising those or these patterns in human behaviour, a different question starts to emerge. Not what people are saying, not what people intend, but what people repeatedly show you, and why most of us miss it until it's impossible to ignore. I'll see you on the next one.